Stolas' Guide to Valentine's Self-Care by Satanic by Panic. Stolas. 81 fucking days. Nearly 4 months of couch springs in his back and stringy alley rats and aching sobriety. Nearly 4 months of gentle encouragement and near constant touches and glowing saffron eyes watching him in the dark. If nothing else, the ordeal lent a certain perspective that he had been lacking before. Perspective on his mistakes, first and foremost. Via was speaking with him now, tentative text messages, and weekly coffee outings that he clung to like driftwood on a stormy sea. It was excruciating, reliving each broken promise and careless word and foolishly held secret, having each mistake of his life illuminated in bright, unflinching colors. Excruciating, but necessary. Unlike his earnest but oblivious apology in the snow that Sin's day, Stolas now understood just what he was sorry for, and his sweet girl knew that he meant it from the depths of his dark little soul. That, it seemed, made all the difference. Perspective on his privilege. Perhaps it was juvenile, but he missed nice things. He didn't even mean the stars, the eternal cosmos, his beautiful gardens, his magic. He had resigned himself to their loss as a fair price for Blitz's life. No, he would settle for decent thread count sheets and good water pressure these days. He and Blitz had very different opinions about what constituted quality, and while his horse obsession was quite adorably endearing, he certainly could have afforded a new couch or perhaps even a 2-bedroom apartment but for all the money spent on equine paraphernalia. Blitz had adamantly refused his offers to help with the rent. He supposed that made sense, since it was Blitz paying his wage anyway, and each time Stolas had floated the notion of moving out, Blitz reacted as if he'd said the red sky was, in fact, blue. It was a bluff, anyway. Stolas was entirely too selfish to make good on that threat, to give up what he'd found in this cramped little apartment with Blitz and his daughter. Which brought him to the third revelation. Perspective on Blitz. He had yearned for intimacy, for proximity for so very long, and now he had just that, and it was glorious agony. Blitz was affectionate, verging on downright doting. He endured the roller coaster of emotion that came with Stolas adjusting to his medication again, with a softness that broke Stolas's heart all over again. Blitz held him through the tears, gave him purpose, and taught him how to navigate this new world with patience and care. Blitz cheered him through every victory, no matter how small, and through it all he had asked for nothing in return, not even Stolas's affection. He had it, of course, in heaps and barrels. If Stolas thought he loved Blitz the day he threw himself between the imp and the executioner's blade, that feeling was barely a spark compared to the one that blazed in his chest now. The inferno was fueled by watching Blitz comb stubborn knots from Luna's hair like she was a little girl and not a grown hound in her 20s. By seeing him in blood-soaked glee following a successful mission, by his off-tune, off-book singing while he cooked them dinner, by the way he still tucked Stolas in every night before retreating to his sad little beanbag chair, by the cheek kisses Blitz stole while he thought he was asleep, by the gooey look in his eyes when he watched Stolas tending to his budding herb garden on the balcony, or preening his feathers, or doing any number of completely innocuous things. He could no longer lie to himself and pretend that what was unfolding between them was nothing, that he meant nothing to Blitz. He'd known that he mattered, deep in his hollow bones, when Blitz had cut him from the ice like something out of his fantasies. when they had kissed like nothing in hell mattered but their love. And if that was to be their last kiss, what a kiss it had been. But why did it have to be? Why was it that Blitz could fuck him within an inch of his life when they were but a means to an end to one another, but now he looked at Stolas like he hung the moon, and decidedly not like Stolas was something he wanted? It was so flagrantly unfair, having him so close and so platonically. Stolas's sex drive had been all but non-existent in those early days, but when it returned, it did so with gusto. Blame it on some deeply rooted animalistic instinct, perhaps, but Stolas felt safe here, and in that security his body had never been so damn needy. He was well versed in tending to his own desires, of course, but he yearned for the ecstasy of those full moon nights. Even if it wasn't making love, even if it was just sex. Being intimate with Blitz was the most transcendent experience of his life. And now with the way he felt, with the way he was increasingly certain that Blitz felt, oh, imagine the intensity. He shuddered and dripped at the thought. He had dropped as many hints as he could. He'd scoured his books for all of the enticing little things that the ingenue did to tempt the rakish hero, flouncing around in the skimpiest of outfits and letting his own touch linger just a tad too long. Each time Blitz would just clear his throat and excuse himself. Oblivious or willfully ignorant, Stolas wasn't quite sure. Shared only with his journal, Stolas had been secretly holding out hope for Valentine's Day. It was a cliché holiday, one brought to hell by sinners of this ring, but any excuse for fornication and excess was one well embraced here, and Stolas thought that perhaps Blitz would seize the opportunity. He'd slept in his tiniest shorts last night, made certain that Blitz witnessed his morning stretches, and mused all through breakfast about what he should do with his first Valentines as a single man. Then Blitz simply snatched up his keys and left, boasting a full day of killing shitty exes solo in the human world. Evidently, Valentine's Day was a very popular day to take out contracts on living humans. So, while his own touch may pale in comparison to Blitz's, he would simply have to be content with that this Valentine's Day. Perhaps Blitz would at least make it home in time for dinner. Blitz. Thinking about Stolas was going to get him killed. He'd already had too many near misses in the field as is. Stolas in those slutty little shorts, legs spread as he slept. Stolas stretching that flexible as fuck frame all over his living room rug. Stolas's hips swaying as he sang to his plants on the balcony. Stolas's muffled moans through the bathroom wall at night when he thought Blitz was asleep. Stolas, Stolas, Stolas. He was starting to chafe from all of the Stolas, Stolas, Stolas pinging around his horny little brain. Being friend-zoned was some bullshit. He'd done it to himself, of course. Stolas had never refused his touch before, and it wasn't like he really expected the owl to start now. Not with how thickly the taste of his arousal lingered on the air in the apartment. It wasn't really a surprise that Luna spent more and more time in gluttony these days. If he could smell it, she was probably choking on it. His poor baby. No. If he made a move, he was pretty goddamn sure Stolas would be down, and wasn't that a bitch? All those years of feels-free banging everything that moved, and Blitz finally had the perfect, no-strings, gorgeous, limber, up-for-anything fuck buddy right there on his couch, and he was such a pussy he couldn't go through with it. He was so in love with the stupid, beautiful bird that he just couldn't. Better to be content with the friendship they had than have a taste of the happiness he yearned for, only to go back to friendship. Stolas had made himself pretty goddamn clear at Verosca's party. He wanted something Blitz couldn't give him. Some fairy tale bullshit that definitely didn't leave room for a broken-down assassin propped up by iced coffee and trauma. He deserved a real knight, not someone who cost him everything just by being in his life. Blitz exhaled with a groan and took the shot, the bullet ripping through the air and the co-ed's head in a heartbeat apart. That's what revenge porn gets you, fuckface. Since IMP made headlines, they had their choice of clients, and Blitz found that he enjoyed killing even more when he felt righteous about it. He whistled to himself as he packed up his rifle, fingertips dancing over the crystal on his wrist, just as he heard the squeal of sirens. Stepping through the portal, he was smacked in the face with everything he'd been trying to ignore. Moxie and Stolas had decorated the office in construction paper hearts, and garland and a bowl of red foil-wrapped chocolates sat on Stolas's unoccupied desk. Fucking Valentine's Day. "Ooh, whatever shall I do with myself today? It is my first Valentine's as a single man, you know." Single. Not divorced. Not on my own. Single. Why had that word hurt so fucking bad? It wasn't like Blitz really thought they were together. He'd never taken Stolas on a date, that's for sure. They ate all their meals together and spent all their free time together, and Blitz liked to imagine that those things were dating, but he knew better. Blitz set aside the rifle case and snatched up the candy with a growl, flopping onto his back on the waiting room sofa. He dug his claws into the candies, unwrapping them and popping them into his mouth rapidly enough that he barely had time to chew. Whoever said that chocolate was a good substitute for sex had clearly never had good sex. They'd never heard those responsive little avian trills of pleasure when it was just right. They'd never sunk into warmth so encompassing that it seemed to suck his whole being in. They'd never watched the way Stolas came undone, shuddering and moaning so beautifully it hurt. He threw the bowl against the wall, sending candies rolling across the carpet amongst the splinters of broken glass. He knew what he should do. He should get his sad ass up off the couch and go to a bar. He should find a willing, hot, preferably tall and soft body to lose himself in tonight. Then he should play that same song on repeat until he worked the owl out of his system. That would have been the kindest solution for the both of them. It was a good idea. So then, why were his boots carrying him right past the dive on the corner? Why was he in the fancy grocery store he only shopped at for special occasions? Why was his dumb, sappy ass racking his brain to remember what flowers the bird liked best? Why was he buying even more chocolate when his stomach already felt like it was full of lead? He tossed the heart-shaped box into the hand cart next to the shrink-wrapped package of vole and the big bag of fresh kale. Mama, what the fuck am I doing? I didn't raise you to be a quitter, Blitz. If you want something, don't let anything stand in your way. But I don't deserve him. He told her the same thing that night, holding the letter in his hand that she'd helped him write, utterly terrified because at that point in his life, the worst thing his naive little brain could imagine was Fizz laughing at him. My baby, you deserve the world. He let the memory of her voice propel him to the checkout lane. Stolas. Stolas stepped from the shower, feathers bristling and sending droplets of water flying. He inhaled the sweet, calming scent of lavender and peony from the new soap he'd purchased, mingling with the bergamot and cedar of his new candles. He dried and preened himself, singing softly as he smoothed his new oil along the shaft of his feathers, interlocking misplaced barbules with efficient but unhurried little touches until all of the feathers on his limbs lay flat and glossy. Now for the last touch. Stolas pulled the ribbon off of the package slowly, clutching it between two fingers. It was a frivolous thing, to be certain. He had spent nearly his whole paycheck on the day's indulgences. The apartment smelled like potpourri. The bathroom looked as though a bomb had been set off in it, and his attempts at microwaving popcorn earlier had left an acrid tang in the air. But as he pulled back the tissue paper and let his fingers glide over the silky, synthetic fabric, Stolas smiled. Yes, he enjoyed nice things, and why shouldn't he? It wasn't the heavy velvet of his old dressing gown, or even real silk, but the red robe felt lovely, sliding against his feathers as he pulled it on, knotting it tightly around his slim waist. He had filled out a bit under Blitz's obnoxiously insistent care, and when he ducked to look in the small bathroom mirror at himself, he couldn't help but feel sexy, like some version of his old self, only more real. He normally did this sort of thing in the bath, discreetly, quickly, and quietly. 3 adults and 1 bathroom was a challenge at the best of times, so he usually retreated to the bathroom to tend to himself in the middle of the night, when feverish dreams of red flesh and golden eyes wouldn't let him sleep. Stolas stretched his legs, one draped over the back of the sofa and the other dragging on the floor, exposing himself to the warm, fragrant air. He turned his face into the pillow that still smelled of Blitz somehow, and breathed deeply, eyes closed, letting his fingertips glide across his abdomen. He imagined Blitz over him, his smile sharp, but his eyes adoring. "Are you going to be good for me, Birdie?" "Yes, Blitz," he whined to the empty room, rewarding his own compliance by letting his fingers dip lower. He parted damp feathers, tracing the textured ridge of his cloaca, moaning softly. He could very efficiently get himself off just like this, and had many times, but that wasn't what he craved tonight. He needed Blitz, hard and hot and heavy in his hand, in his mouth, in his cunt. He ached to be filled, pushing 2 fingers into himself with a sharp trill. "Easy, pretty bird. We have all night. Let me take care of you." Stolas took a deep breath and slowed his fingers, thrusting with steady, unrelenting force just as Blitz would. In his mind, Blitz was between his thighs, fingers teasing and stretching him as his perfect cock bobbed just out of reach. He pressed deeper, back arching off the couch, and imagining Blitz's hips pressing forward. His growl bit back, but still audible. Stolas's fingers curled into that spot, Blitz's spot, the one he had discovered that lit up every nerve in Stolas's body. He groaned lustily into the pillow just as he heard the deadbolt click. Blitz. Blitz stood with his key in the lock, his free arm cradling the grocery bag to himself, and he was completely fucking frozen. He had definitely heard that, right? That rich, deep groan that Stolas usually reserved for when he was getting well and truly fucked. Fear gripped him, strangling the breath from his lungs. Stolas wouldn't fuck someone else on their couch. No fucking way. He was classier than that. Okay, so this was just another night of pretending he didn't hear Stolas flicking his bird bean or whatever. No big deal. He could just turn around and... Blitz. Shit. Blitz finished unlocking the door and shouldered it open, a wide smile glued to his face. "Hey, Stols. Have a good day?" The scent of Stolas's slick hit him all at once, and he couldn't help but flick his tongue out for a taste. Stolas stood up from the sofa, pulling his robe tight around himself and straightening his head feathers. "Oh, it was fine." Stolas walked around the sofa, his robe flowing behind him and parting to reveal a long sliver of thigh. Blitz bit down on his own tongue. "You're home early?" "Yeah, no shit," he thought. "Sorry, Blitz turned towards the kitchen and put the bag down, keeping his back to Stolas in an act of sheer self-preservation. He was hard as a rock, and he didn't see that problem correcting itself on his own. Fuck everything about today. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "Oh, I was just reading." Blitz worked really hard to suppress his laugh. He did. "What's so amusing?" Stolas was so close now. When did he get so close? "I like the new robe," Blitz offered instead of an answer. And fuck, he really did. Stolas in all that red, silky fabric was going to haunt his dreams for months. He wanted to pull him close by the belt and bury his face underneath, dragging his tongue through those sweet folds and, "Oh yes, well, I just thought it makes me feel like myself, I suppose." Blitz hazarded a glance up at the owl standing in his kitchen in that damn flimsy robe, smelling like that. His claws curled into the paper bag. "I suppose that isn't altogether a good thing." "I don't know. I've got a lot of good memories that start with you in a red robe." One of these days, Blitz would learn how to keep his trap shut. Probably. Stolas's hoot was softer these days, huskier, like that night on the balcony when they had come so fucking close. "Yes, well, as I recall, it didn't stay on for very long." Stolas craned his long neck, leaning over Blitz and brushing his feathers against his horns and the side of his face. Blitz's lips parted, face turning slightly into that plumage before Stolas's voice pulled him back. "What's in the bag?" "Shit!" There was no way he could do his romantic dinner bullshit after walking in on the bird finger-fucking himself like that. He could barely keep his shit together as is. He should just bow out, just leave, and maybe sleep in the van, and rip. The bag tore open, rended by his claws into 2 handfuls of paper scraps as the contents of his romantic fantasies spilled across the counter. Stolas blinked twice, head tilted at an adorably impossible angle as he processed what he was seeing, and Blitz considered rubbing out a portal so that the floor would literally swallow him up whole. "Blitz? What is this?" Dinner?" Blitz rubbed the back of his neck with one hand. It's Valentine's Day. I thought, since we didn't have anyone else to spend it with." He watched the bird's pupils shrink into tremulous dots, dropping to the floor as the hopeful curl of his mouth turned sour. "Oh, I see. That's nice of you. Flowers and chocolates, even. And vol. My favorite." Stolas's smile was sad but genuine. "Thank you." Blitz took a deep breath, and wow, it did not help that everything still smelled like bird puss. Focus, dipshit. "Fuck it. I wanted to spend Valentine's Day with you, Stolas." Blitz lifted his eyes slowly, dragging them up the length of Stolas's neck, back to his face as the horny, terrified, and achingly hopeful parts of him all warred for his attention. "I want you every goddamn day, and I know it's not... I get that it may not be what you want anymore, but I can make you happy, Birdie." Blitz was begging now, and he didn't give a fuck. "I know I can. If you just give me a Blitz's horns smacked against the cabinets, sending a reverberating zing of pain to his skull. The sensation was immediately forgotten when Stolas's forehead pressed to his, standing between his thighs, while Blitz was propped on the counter's edge to mitigate their height difference. "I want you, Blitz. Only you. You're all that I've ever wanted." His breath punched from his lungs. Blitz had to quell his elation for a moment. "At the risk of shooting myself in the foot here, are you super sure that isn't just horny Stolas talking? Do you want to read my journal and see how impatient I've been for you to say something, you little idiot?" Stolas chirped softly and nuzzled closer, his breath puffing across Blitz's lips. "I love you so very much." "Fuck, same." Blitz lunged forward, eyes tightly shut and brow furrowed, as he kissed Stolas like his neck was back on that block, like it was the last thing he would ever do. And Stolas gave as good as he got, hands clutching desperately at Blitz's jacket and his tongue doing things that ground Blitz's brain to a standstill. "Same," Stolas whispered with faux indignation and panted breath. Blitz chuckled, claws carding through the soft, clean feathers. Satan, he smelled wonderful. "I love you so fucking hard it scares the shit out of me, Birdie. How about that?" Stolas cooed brightly, and oh man, if Blitz could bottle the feeling that sound gave him, he'd be the richest motherfucker in all the 7 rings. "That will do. We should probably talk." Blitz kissed his neck just beneath the feathers hiding his ear. His voice deepened, his thoughts overridden by relief and joy and proximity and want. "First, though, did you come?" "What? Whatever do you—" Blitz snatched Stolas's wrist from the air, bringing his hand close to his lips. "Stoles." He flicked his tongue out just shy of touching those long fingers, tasting the lingering arousal coating them. Blitz watched realization dawn on the owl's features, and fuck, it was just adorable that he thought he hadn't been caught. Just cute as shit. No, not yet." His chest was already rising and falling so rapidly, like prey caught in a trap. Why was everything about this silly bird such a goddamn turn-on? "Good." Blitz's tongue curled around Stolas's fingers as he sucked them lewdly. He groaned, a shudder rippling all the way to the tip of his tail. "What were you thinking about?" "You. Tell me." Stolas. Stolas swallowed, trying to focus through the haze of desire. He had said such utterly filthy things to Blitz before without a trace of self-consciousness, but that was before. Now his cheeks heated under that expectant gaze. "I was imagining that my fingers were yours, that you were getting me ready." "Ready for what?" Blitz smiled, kissing his palm without taking his eyes off of Stolas. For you to... You were stretching yourself for my cock." The words rolled off of Blitz's tongue in that deep rumble so casually that Stolas felt his knees go weak. He could only nod, which earned him a sharp nip of fangs on his wrist. "Use your words, pretty bird." "Yes," Stolas panted. Lords, Blitz had barely touched him, and he could feel himself dripping down his thighs. "I was thinking about how you feel inside me, how deep you can get, how full. Goddamn, Stoles." Blitz kissed his wrist once more, and then hauled him down by his feathers, searing mouth devouring his. Each kiss after their revelation was sweeter than the last, and Stolas could have sunk into that embrace for an eternity, but Blitz had other plans. "Back to the sofa," he growled against Stolas's beak. Stolas stumbled over his long legs in an effort to comply quickly, earning him a little chuckle as Blitz hopped down from the counter and adjusted his obvious erection by tucking it into his waistband. Oh, how Stolas wanted to unwrap that present. "Lay down, just like before," he commanded, as he prowled towards the sofa, shedding his gloves as he went. Stolas stretched out on the sofa, thighs squeezed together in search of some relief as Blitz walked around the furniture to look down at him. "I said, just like before." He grasped Stolas's knees roughly and wrenched his thighs apart. "Like this." Stolas tucked his beak to his chest and spread his thighs further, draping one leg over the back of the sofa to put himself on display. The way Blitz's pupils swelled made him chirrup in delight. Fuck yeah, just like that. Blitz's blown eyes were glued to his exposed cunt, and the heat of Stolas's flush felt like it would consume him whole. Beautiful. Blitz's fingers skated over the fabric of his robe, pulling at the tie but not unfastening it. "Are you ready for me, Birdie?" "Yes, Blitz." Stolas made fists in the pillow behind his head, his back bowing as he did his absolute best to look as enticing as possible. "Please, I need you." "Show me." Blitz licked his lips, releasing the fabric of his robe to begin unbuttoning his jacket. "Show me how ready you are." A shaky hand slid down the length of Stolas's body, tracing slight curves and soft feathers through thin, silky fabric. He dipped them between his thighs again and arched into his own touch as he pushed 3 fingers roughly into himself with a little cry of delightful anguish. "Shit, slow down, Birdie. We have all night." Those words, that voice. Stolas had to still his fingers to avoid coming right there. He resumed their thrusting slowly, teasing both himself and Blitz as the imp dropped his jacket and reached back for the zipper of his shirt. "Blitz." Stolas's beak was parted, spilling urgent little pants with every thrust and curl of his own fingers. "Please, I've missed you so much, darling." Those, it seemed, were the magic words. Blitz's boots and trousers hit the ground in a blur, and he was climbing between Stolas's thighs with his tail lashing the air behind him, cock heavy between them. "I want you so bad," he mumbled against Stolas's knee, his fangs dragging against the skin beneath his feathers as he moved down his thigh to where Stolas's fingers were still slowly pumping. "You've no fucking idea, Stoles. I dream about you every night. I think about you every waking minute. Watching you strut about this apartment, fuck, it's taken so much goddamn restraint to keep my hands off you." Stolas moaned, quickening his fingers on instinct as Blitz's words drove him closer to the edge. He hung on every single one. "You like that? Knowing that you make me so hard I can't fucking think. That I wait until you finish fingering this sweet cunt in the middle of the night, and then I go jerk myself raw to the smell of you and the noises you make, and just the thought that maybe you're thinking about me too. Oh, fuck! Blitz!" Blitz. Stolas's body quaked and his cunt clenched around those fingers as he erupted, cum coating his hand and Blitz's cheek with the first spasm, then dripping down to soak through that red fabric, turning it to the dark hue of human blood. And Blitz couldn't do anything but grin. He'd watch Stolas's face for the next orgasm, he told himself. Right now, he just needed to. Blitz groaned as his tongue slithered alongside Stolas's fingers. Stolas withdrew them immediately, hand moving to the back of Blitz's head. Blitz pressed forward, face flush with Stolas's body, as he licked and sucked like an absolute lunatic, fucking into Stolas with his tongue, relishing every twitch and moan. He could have spent all night right there in absolute bliss, but Stolas was pulling on his horns and his dick was leaking on the sofa, reminding him just how much he wanted all of him. With one more messy kiss, Blitz wiped his face on his arm and leaned up. He considered all of his options quickly before he nodded to the floor. On your knees. Stolas nearly knocked him out, whipping those long-ass legs around and trying to get off the sofa in the tangle of his robe. Ah, adorable. He knelt and immediately went for Blitz's lap, tongue hanging from his very tempting-looking mouth, and damn. But he didn't have it in him to hold out for long enough, and he needed to feel his birdie properly, so he grasped Stolas' shoulder, halting him with a slight shake of his head. Stolas tilted his head quizzically again, and Blitz slid out from under his hands and eager tongue. He moved behind Stolas, claws dragging down the slope of his back. Elbows on the sofa. That's it. Thighs wider, ass up. Good. So perfect for me. He stroked Stolas' back as he spoke and watched tail feathers flutter invitingly. Blitz could stand behind him like this, and as he lined himself up, one hand climbed the length of his body to cup his cheek, twisting his head slightly. So flexible. Stolas laughed. So creative. His eyes closed and he leaned back, beak parted in silent plea. Blitz kissed him as he pushed into that wet heat, and it was dizzying, feeling the soft slide of his tongue in tandem with that first mind-altering thrust. He couldn't have stopped kissing Stolas if he had had a fucking gun to his head, even when he began to thrust. Blitz fucked him, slower and sweeter than he even knew he was capable of. His muscles were corded tight, his lizard brain screaming for him to pound into Stolas until he couldn't walk, but he kept his strokes deep and steady, angling his hips on each outward drag until they were both gasping and moaning into each other's mouths. Even so, it was all too short-lived. I'm not gonna last, baby. Baby? Christ on a stick, who even was he? I'm so close, Blitz. Please. Stolas whined against his tongue. Fuck. Blitz's brow furrowed, and he dragged his own tongue over his teeth, desperate for anything to stave off the inevitable, while he got his hand around to the front of Stolas' body. Come for me, baby. Let me take care of you. He could feel where he was being swallowed again and again by Stolas' cunt, and the sensation pushed him right over the edge, but not before Stolas clenched around him and shuddered with his own release. He registered that much, at least, through the piercing pleasure of emptying what felt like his entire soul into Stolas' trembling body. He felt so light that he might just float away, and he tethered himself to Stolas like a lifeline, pressing himself into his back as the bone-deep exhaustion of relief tugged at his eyes. Stolas. Blitz clung to him like a koala, arms tight and face pressed between his shoulder blades as he let out a shuddering breath. Stolas folded one arm on the sofa cushion and pillowed his head on it, closing his eyes and enjoying the warmth of Blitz wrapped around him, of Blitz filling him, of Blitz's affection radiating off of him in waves, a fresh wave tingling over his skin with every touch and soft sound. Stolas put a hand over one of Blitz's that splayed across his chest, threading their fingers together and squeezing tightly. So, what now? Dinner? Blitz mumbled against his spine. Stolas hooted airily. I meant something more to the effect of, what are we now? You're mine. Blitz squeezed tighter, sounding halfway to sleep already. Dinner would almost certainly have to wait. I'm yours. Good enough. More than enough. Stolas stroked his thumb over the back of Blitz's hand, feathers fluffing up with glee. Happy Valentine's Day, darling. Happy Valentine's Day, Birdie.